Hey, how's everybody doing? So I want to talk about Money in the Bank, which we just saw Saturday. Pretty decent, solid show. We're going to dive right into this thing. So we start with the men's Money in the Bank match, which saw Jey Uso, Carmelo Hayes, Andrade, Chad Gable, LA Knight, and Drew McIntyre fighting each other in the ring for the briefcase. The opportunity to cash in on a champion of your choosing at the time of your choosing within a year. So a lot of interesting things with the people in this match, as far as the opportunity that it could have afforded them. And I have to say that going through this list, first of all, Jey Uso does deserve to finally have that push in the singles scene. Whether this was the right time for him or not, I would have been okay with Jey taking the victory here. Carmelo Hayes would have been interesting. Fairly new to this, but at the same time has already kind of started to find his footing with who his character is and connecting to the audience. All of that. Andrade has been around for a while. He's kind of put his feet in the waters in another company to see where things were, came back. Again, I would have been okay with Andrade taking the victory here, but I get it. He's still trying to connect to the audience, and while they are on his side and he does get a reaction, not quite what you need for that top-tier talent that you want going into a Money in the Bank winning character, right? Chad Gable would have been a okay pick. From there, you could have went into a storyline with him attempting to cash in that contract, but with that knowledge that you have to also have eyes in the back of your head concerning the Wyatt Six, as they have been attacking him lately. That sets you up for that possibility of Chad maybe not being successful cashing that in, right? It gives you that fail-safe somewhat there. You have LA Knight, who definitely has people behind him. He definitely is connected to the crowd. He has them talking. They're reacting. Whether this was the situation for him or not, I don't know. But I would have been okay with LA Knight picking up the victory if that was the way that it went. It was not. Our last competitor, Drew McIntyre, ended up picking up that victory, winning the Money in the Bank contract. So let's talk about that a little bit, because that ties into the next match I want to talk about. That being the match for the World Heavyweight Championship. It's supposed to be Seth Rollins and Damian Priest. This match itself had some controversy to it, because Seth Rollins had Damian Priest pinned. There was a 2 count. Should have been a 3 count. The referee stopped. Much speculation as to exactly why. Some think that Drew's music was supposed to start, and that was supposed to be a deterrent to that 3 count. Whether that was Seth getting up and stopping the pin, causing the count to stop, whatever the case may be. Here's the thing to remember with that. Seth is a veteran in this business, right? So he could have found something to have distracted him, to have caused him to stop with the pin. And that maybe should have been maybe what he could have done. Now, on Damian's side, he's not necessarily a veteran. He's been in the business for a while and is getting familiar with these scenarios, right? So, I don't think this scenario was set up where he was supposed to kick out. Now, could he have? Okay, you maybe. reading the room, maybe he should have. But by the time that he knew that the music wasn't going to hit the way it was supposed to, and they were going to have to kind of fly by the seat of their pants somewhat to continue the match, he could have thrown a very late kick out, but it would have been very last minute. Could they have gone that route? Yeah, maybe he should have, maybe not. I'm not going to necessarily say it's either one's fault. At the end of the day, Drew's music did hit. He did come out and he did cash in his Money in the Bank briefcase the same night. Now, he was then attacked by CM Punk. Now, we have a triple threat match going on, which means that interference is allowed. You're not going to get disqualified because of those things, right? Rope breaks are allowed. Or you're not going to see any rope breaks, that kind of thing. Here's my thought process on this. First of all, I don't know why they would set it up so that Drew's music was supposed to hit. And here's the problem that I have with that. Because I feel like Drew would have been smart enough to have realized that his better opportunity would have been when it was a one-on-one match. That means when the match was over. And the winner being essentially kind of incapacitated, right? Worn out. You would think that Drew would be smart enough to know that he should not enter into a triple threat match. That would make this cash-in that much harder. And the idea behind the Money in the Bank briefcase and the whole contract is that you're going to look for an opportune time. This not being that opportune time, right? So that's my first issue with doing this cash-in right now. I get why they did. And it's going to set up an absolutely amazing match. No question there, right? Maybe even at SummerSlam. Because Drew entering this match and CM Punk costing him that match, Drew being the one that got pinned by Damian Priest. And Damian Priest picking up the victory means a couple of different things. First of all, Drew no longer has the Money in the Bank briefcase. He held it for a very little amount of time. And now an unsuccessful cash-in is sitting over Drew because of CM Punk. But that's not it. On the other side of this, you have Seth Rollins, who now, because Damian was successful in retaining his title here, Seth now can no longer challenge for the World Heavyweight Championship as long as Damian is the champion. That's an issue now for Seth, because he wants that championship back. And once again, it is because of CM Punk, who we already know that Seth and CM Punk are not getting along right now. They have issues, major issues. And this just compounds that. And you see that afterwards when Seth looks very pointedly at CM Punk, realizing exactly what this interference means for him. He doesn't really care about the fact that he just cost Drew this cash-in. He cares about the fact that he now cost him an opportunity to ever challenge Damian again, as long as he is still the champion. He is very serious, and you can see that in his eyes. And it took a very determined Corey Graves to try to back Seth off, and he did help them get control of that situation. But that added some fuel to this, and it's kind of neat to see Corey get involved there in helping to calm Seth down. So here's where I think they're going with this. My guess is at SummerSlam we are going to get potentially a triple threat match, possibly, between Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, and CM Punk. These men are going to tear the house down. It's going to be a good match. I really believe that. It's going to be very personal. It's going to be very heated. And they may even go with a no holds barred or some kind of extreme match here because of all of the pent-up frustration between these three men. It's going to be a good match. I just don't know if that's the way I would roll with Drew. I feel like he maybe deserved better having won that briefcase, right? I totally understand what they did, setting up this great opportunity. And I am looking forward to what that match can be. So that's kind of the reasoning I think they went that route. Whether or not that's true, I don't really know. Completely just throwing that out of thin air. So let's now move on to the next match. And there weren't necessarily a whole lot. We have Sami Zayn putting his title on the line, the Intercontinental title, against Bron Breakker, a very tough opponent for Sami. Not unlike Gunther, who Sami won the title from, but again, a very formidable foe. And many people did not think Sami could get that done. But against the odds, he usually can somehow pull it off. And this time, he did. He pulled up the victory against Bron Breakker and retained his title. I am happy to see that. It was in front of a hometown crowd, being in Canada, Sami being from Canada. That was kind of a feel-good moment there. I don't know that it hurts Bron Breakker at all. He put on a very good show. I think we'll move forward from here, and maybe things are not done between Bron Breakker and Sami. Honestly, I don't know that they continue it. It didn't really seem like there was anything in it that made it look like they would continue it. Usually you see that if there's been some extra violence possibly, or interference, that kind of thing. And in this particular match, there was not. They could have, because Bron Breakker has seen that happening a lot lately with people interfering in his matches, so they could have gone that route. I'm kind of glad that they did not. So I feel like that's kind of a close to that whole situation. Let's go ahead and talk about the Women's Money in the Bank ladder match. We saw Io Sky, Chelsea Green, Lyra Valkyria, Naomi, Zoe Stark, and the one that would end up being the victor in Miss Money in the Bank, Tiffany Stratton. This match was actually pretty decent. Not gonna lie, starting out when they were having everyone make their entrances, I can't help that part of me really kind of wanted someone to get attacked or something to happen, that Becky would come out and she would pull up the victory here. And you guys can give me all kinds of grief if you want to about that, but Becky is still one of my favorites, right? And as much as they say she has done everything, this is the one match that she has not actually won. She's been in it many times, been close many times, but has not come up with the victory and become Miss Money in the Bank yet. This was not her year, and that's fine. Any one of these women, honestly, aside from Chelsea Green, I would have been okay with. Here's the thing. I don't mind Chelsea, and she is moving storylines along. Do not get me wrong with that. She's even helping get Piper Niven moved along, right? But when you talk Money in the Bank, this is a championship opportunity, and I just really don't think that Chelsea is there yet. Io Sky obviously is. She's been a champion. She's a fantastic champion. My issue with Io is still her entrance. I honestly really think that they need to do something different with that. It just seems like she is, I don't know. Just the whole, and maybe it's just the music and her reaction to it, and maybe I just need to get over it. This is probably the case. But she's still a fantastic competitor in that ring. She's very talented. She's getting better on the mic and communicating on it. I don't mind her using her native language on the mic. I feel she's more comfortable with that. So that's fine. That's great. And I feel like she's still making the emphasis of what she's trying to say get across, even if she is using her native language. You had Lyra Valkyria, who, yes, she's fairly new. She's still making a name for herself. And while she maybe would not have been my first choice because of that, because she's still trying to determine her place there, I feel like people are still aware of who she is. They recognize her. She maybe is not at that place yet where, even though Tiffany is new, she has started to make a name for herself. The whole Tiffy time thing is catching on, and I'm glad that she is learning to roll with that and use that to her advantage. While I find her somewhat annoying, that is part of her character, so I don't hate that. I think that is part of her doing her job, and she's gonna make a great Miss Money in the Bank. Whether she is successful or not, that is the question, because as of right now, every woman who's won the Money in the Bank contract has been successful in cashing it in. I feel like if they're going to make her successful with this, and if she is going to be a women's champion on either Raw or SmackDown, they need to take her time with it. They cannot have her cash in right away, so I think it was very smart that they did not have another women's match on that card where she could potentially cash in. I just don't think that this is her time. I think she needs to feel things out a little bit, and she is talented. Okay, you saw that in several of the spots that she had there. I just don't know that she's ready for a championship quite yet. Close, and I think if you give her, she has a year to cash this in. So if you give her that time, they can make this work. Then you have Naomi, who would have been fine as a Money in the Bank winner, would have been fine as a champion. Same with Zoe Stark. Now, when it comes to Zoe, she does still, I think, somewhat need to get to that point where the WWE audience starts to care a little bit more. They like her, but she really is not quite there where I think she's ready for a championship. She's talented enough, but I think she needs to get better with that mic work and connecting with that audience. Working with Shayna Baszler, I think, is going to help her with that, so I think she needs to work with Shayna a little bit more to get to that point. And that is the Women's Money in the Bank match. Let's go to the last match that was on the card. We had, let's get there, Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton, Kevin Owens taking on the bloodline of Solo Sikoa, Tama Tonga, and Jacob Fatu. The one that was not involved in the match, of course, Tonga Loa. He was at ringside, so already you're looking at the bloodline having that numbers advantage, right? Which does not set them up for good odds for Cody, Randy, and Kevin. They put on a very good fight. I thought it was well done. I didn't necessarily hate that the bloodline picked up the victory. I think to continue to get Solo to that point where he is looked at as much of a threat maybe as Roman was, that was the way that you had to go. I feel like by doing this, there has been word that they are setting up potentially a Bloodline versus Bloodline War Games match at Survivor Series, which could be true, and I wouldn't necessarily hate that. And that is where you bring back Roman Reigns, potentially bring back The Rock. All potentials, all possibilities. And even though there had not been any rumors about it or any name drops of it as potentially happening, I kind of would have liked to have seen Jimmy Uso make his return, Saturday. There would have been some issues with that in that he did help making things harder for Cody at WrestleMania. Randy obviously still has issues with him as part of that bloodline that put him on the shelf. Kevin's still having issues with him as being part of that bloodline that cost him that championship match against Roman that Kevin should have won when Roman was handcuffed to that ladder and Paul Heyman essentially forced the referee to stop the count while he helped get Roman uncuffed. I'm still disturbed by that and upset by that because in a Falls Count Anywhere match or in a Last Man Standing match, you don't stop the count for things like that. So Kevin obviously is still going to be annoyed with the whole of the bloodline at that time. So that could have caused some issues with Jimmy making that return. But I feel like it would have been kind of fun to bring him back out at that time and at least evening the odds a little bit to help Cody, Randy, and Kevin, even if he wasn't necessarily accepted, even if it wasn't necessarily successful. I think it would have been fun to bring him back. When he comes back, I do feel like they need to bring him back as a babyface because many people are on his side now after he got attacked by Solo and Tama Tonga. Yeah, I think he needs to come back as a babyface and not as a heel. Maybe he teams up with his brother Jay as part of that bloodline versus bloodline thing if they're going that route. We'll see where that goes. Jimmy has not yet been seen since just after WrestleMania when Solo turned on him. So I hope you guys enjoyed kind of my take on what happened at Money in the Bank, where I see these things going, how I felt about the outcomes of these. One more thing I want to mention before we end there, though, because after the show, they were on commentary, they're back up where they do the post-show, or pre-show, and Drew came out, he was very angry, understandably, he started causing chaos, very upset still about the whole CM Punk situation. Adam Pearce came out to try to calm him down. He ended up getting elbowed in the face. I'm just obviously very upset by this. Here's the fun part, okay? Because Wade Barrett gets in between that and finally gets Drew out of there and brings some sense of control to that situation. This is very interesting because afterwards there has now been rumors that Wade Barrett is cleared to compete and is interested in competing again in the ring. So maybe we go that direction with Wade Barrett getting back in the ring. This also led to both Drew McIntyre and CM Punk being fined, Drew also being suspended by Adam Pearce because of elbowing him in the face. See where this goes. I don't see Drew listening to this. I see him making his way to the arena anyway. I don't see Adam getting in the ring. So I don't see this setting up a Adam Pearce Drew McIntyre match. We'll see where they take this. It's very interesting. I like how they're taking this from the ring, from the event itself, to that post show. But that is my review of Money in the Bank. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts, whether you agree, disagree. Love to talk about it. We will see you guys next time.